You everybody for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Also, quick thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet $50 on any game. Get up to $1,111 in free bets courtesy of the Betfred Sportsbook. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Let's get to the college football. I'm sorry. If you have Spectrum, you know exactly where I'm coming from today. If you don't, I apologize for that 4-minute rant. But let's get to the week 1 Thursday college football. And while we could easily start with the Nebraska-Minnesota, and by the way, again, this is a segment where I'm just going to go off the cuff. I'm just going to react in real time, what happened, what I'm thinking, all that good stuff. Well, I could start with Nebraska-Minnesota. The place that I do want to start is lovely Salt Lake City, Utah. That is because despite the fact of Spectrum knocking out my cable minutes before this game started, I found an illegal stream, I watched it, and I got a lot of takeaways. As Utah takes care of business, frankly, in the way that I told you to, they win 24-11. Awful night for the Florida Gators. But again, this is what I told you it was going to be. Remember, before the game, everyone's freaking out. Cam Rising, the starting quarterback, is he going to play? And what did I say? It doesn't matter. Utah's going to be able to control the line of scrimmage. Utah's going to be able to beat Florida up. And that was exactly what happened on Thursday night in Salt Lake City. Listen, I want to talk about the Gators. But before I do, let's give credit to Utah and Kyle Whittingham. On the illegal stream that I watched this, I thought Chris Fowler did a great job describing this game when it went final. He said this was a culture win for Utah. And I believe it very much was, okay? Because here's the thing you have to understand about Utah. It wasn't just that their starting quarterback, Cam Rising, was not available for this game. Think about this. They have a 2-time All Pac-12 tight end that also was not available. Their best defensive lineman, a first-team preseason All Pac-12 guy, Junior Tafuna, was not available. Kareem Reed, a preseason All Pac-12 first-team linebacker, got knocked out in the first quarter. So for Utah to win this game in the manner in which they did, credit to them, credit to Kyle Whittingham. It's about depth, it's about culture, it's about guys stepping up. Now, bluntly, I wasn't as worried about the backup quarterback situation as everybody else. As I told you on Wednesday's show, Bryson Barnes played in the Rose Bowl. And remember, with Cam Rising out, he got all the snaps in the spring. He got all the snaps in fall camp, and I thought he would be ready to go. Thought it was a great game plan by Florida to get him reps, as well as Nate Johnson, the backup, who's kind of a dual threat guy. Nate Johnson finished the game with 6 carries, 45 yards, and a touchdown. Utah really, I thought from start to finish, was in control of this game. Still, as we often say on this show, what do we always say? The more interesting story is in the losing locker room, and that is exactly the case in this game for the Florida Gators. Florida, after a 6-7 season, remember they went 6-7 last year. It was a complete disaster. They got smoked in the bowl game by Oregon State. We heard all offseason that it was going to be different, that this team was more cohesive. Billy Napier, I saw all these quotes about the systems are more in place and all this. I've seen Billy Napier say on many occasions that Graham Mertz, the starting quarterback from Wisconsin, who transferred from Wisconsin to Florida, it's going to be different here. Well, he looked very much the same. And unfortunately, the Gators looked very much the same to me. Bottom line, let me start by saying this. I don't think this is really Billy Napier's fault for the most part, okay? I said it last year. I'll say it again. Billy Napier inherited a much bigger mess than a lot of people realize, okay? Billy Napier inherited a disaster at Florida. I remember watching Florida last year, texting a buddy of mine who's a Gators fan. And I said, dude, is this the least talented Florida Gators roster of our lifetimes? Because I think it is. Florida alum, Florida graduate, Florida fan. He said it is, absolutely. Well, here's the problem, and this is where I do think you can blame Billy Napier, is that while the roster was a disaster when he took over, I don't think he did very much in the transfer portal. And I mentioned it on Wednesday's show. The Athletic ranked the top 100 transfers in college football. Florida had 0 of them. And so if I'm going to blame anybody for this situation at Florida, I'm going to blame some of it on the previous regime because I think they left a mess. I think the culture stunk, and I think the roster was not good. That was the criticism of Dan Mullen. That was why Dan Mullen got let go when he did. It wasn't just the win-loss record. It was that he didn't have the recruiting chops to clean it up. So that's on him. But also, this is on Billy Napier. They went into the offseason knowing they needed a quarterback. They went after a bunch of guys. They ended up with Graham Mertz. They knew they needed help along the offensive line. They didn't really do that much. Needed help on defense. Didn't really do that much. And this is what you saw on Thursday night. But here's the concern for Florida. Let me just ask you bluntly, what did Florida do well on Thursday? Because I can't think of much. Graham Mertz, 31 of 44. I guess that's okay. 333 yards. He did throw a crushing interception at the worst possible time. This is the part that's mortifying. Florida, I would argue their best unit as a group is the running back room. They finished with how about this? 13 carries for 21 yards. 21 carries for 13 yards for Florida. So some of it's on Mertz, but a lot of it is on the offensive line. And I think Utah probably has one of the better defensive fronts that Florida will see all year. But how about that? 21 carries for 13 yards for Florida. It was a complete disaster. And then defensively, I just thought, too many mistakes, too many this, too many that. Finished with 9 penalties, 45 yards on that. And so I look at this game. I think this was a worst case scenario for Florida. I really do, because to me, when you lose a game like this in week 1, you want to take away some positives, right? I don't know what those positives are. 1, Utah was beat up. This wasn't full strength Utah, great crowd, great environment, all that. This was Utah with a backup quarterback, with their 2 best defensive players not playing, with their starting tight end, a 2-time All Pac-12 guy, not playing either. Beyond that, what is the positive to take away? Graham Mertz did not look good. The O-line couldn't block. You couldn't get a running game going. You didn't really do all that much on defense. You had a bunch of penalties. What is the positive to take away from that? And then beyond that, let me say this. It ain't going to get any easier if you're the Florida Gators, because this is their schedule going forward. They still have, not sure if you're familiar, the SEC East is getting good this year. It's going to be good this year. They have Georgia on a neutral field. Tennessee is a good team. Kentucky, I think, is really good. They have to go to Kroger Field, where they lost the last time they went in 2021. They still have to play LSU in a cross-division game at LSU. Good luck with that one. They still have Arkansas. If you're an Arkansas fan, you got to be feeling really good. Arkansas is going to have the better quarterback in that game, KJ Jefferson. They're going to have the better line play. They're going to have the better running back in that game with Rocket Sanders. Oh, by the way, they finished the season with Florida State, a team that I picked to make the college football playoff. And so I bring it up. I don't know what the positives are, but I go back to what I said all offseason. I go back to what I said on Wednesday. Everybody was freaking out about no Cam Rising. What does it mean? I said, it doesn't matter. Florida is not good. No depth, no talent inherited by Billy Napier. And I think he's done a mediocre job of backfilling that roster. I know the 2024 recruiting class is really good, but at the same time, in the transfer portal era, there's no excuse. Brian Kelly brought in like 20 guys last year, flipped it in a year. Lincoln Riley brought in 20 plus guys, flipped it in a year. Hugh Freeze brought in like 20 plus guys this offseason, and I think they're going to be immediately improved. Billy Napier is going to be asked some tough questions after tonight, and he deserves to be asked some tough questions after tonight.